BeamNG is a wild beast. With constant updates and non-stop evolution, this game offers nearly infinite ways to cut corners and gain absurd amounts of speed on the straights. Truly, unlocking the full potential of any vehicle in BeamNG is very tough and, in many cases, probably impossible, especially with the devs working tirelessly, tweaking physics and updating cars on a regular basis. Just look at the Hirochi Sunburst. One day you are the king and quarter-way enduro is your playground. But after the patch, everything changes. Piccolina shows up, takes your crown, and suddenly no one even remembers your name. Speedrunners know this. With every patch, be it a tiny tweak or a massive overhaul, they dig in, test everything and start building new setups from scratch. This constantly evolving game is the perfect playground for crafting the ultimate vehicle for a very specific task. And over the years, they've done just that. More speed and more control, then even more speed and less control. And of course, no wheels? No problem. But today I'm not here to explain how the Scintilla became a top-tier monster or how the rally spec Vivas can crush dirt maps. Today we are focusing on the most default car in BeamNG, the Gavril D-series. On paper, it's a mediocre vehicle at best. It's heavy, durable, but lacks the speed and, more importantly, the acceleration needed to compete with actual race cars. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a great vehicle, especially in scenarios built specifically for it, like the Gavril jump cars or Fearless. These simple-looking races are packed with tiny tricks to squeeze out even fraction of an advantage. Like the tailgate. Yeah. Who would have thought that opening the tailgate could actually give you a real boost over long distances? But after some testing, speedrunners found out that it saves roughly half a second on a 40-second straight. So how exactly did this unassuming vehicle manage to do this? Well, it all started a long time ago, back in 2018, with the release of BeamNG version 0.12. This was a major patch, and it introduced a lot of staples that would shape the future of BeamNG speedrunning. Among them, buses and something even more important, a full-on campaign that revolves around them: hustle and bustle. If you've never played it, it's basically a series of cool and, dare I say, unique challenges. With almost zero RNG, by the way, the current speedrun for it is one of the most optimized in the entire scene. To beat it, you literally need near-perfect shifting. But for us, the most important part comes at the very end. The final mission features one little item that would change the future of BeamNG forever: JATO. I've talked about jet-powered nonsense before, so if you are into that kind of chaos and want to see some of the craziest skips explained in great detail, you can check out some of my other videos. After that patch, nothing major really happened. No massive skips with flying buses across the map, no dramatic changes to speedrunning strategies. Well, aside from some slow improvements on the bus routes themselves. But even there, it would take another 4 years for runners to fully implement all the optimal strategies. Around this same time, the D-series was quietly going through a series of updates, mostly to its damage model. But sadly, nothing really changed. It was still heavy, still durable, and still painfully slow. A solid car for scenarios like Get Down, but unusable for almost everything race-related. This was the era of the SBR4, the Scintilla and the Vivas. But as always, no matter how long your reign lasts, eventually a new king shows up. And about 10 months ago, that's exactly what happened. BeamNG devs introduced a brand new vehicle, the Gavril MD series. Heavy, durable, packed with wheels, and offering an insane amount of tuning flexibility. This was the vehicle that would start to change everything. Exactly 4 seconds of trailer footage showed everything. JATO was part of baseline kit for MD series, and unsurprisingly, the first people to take notice were, and you're never gonna guess it, drag racers. Almost the moment that patch went live, they slapped a rocket on an MD series frame, and just like that, a whole new subgenre was born: dragstrip rocket sleds. The community immediately noticed. Debates broke out: should this even be allowed? Is it still racing if you don't have wheels? But in the end, it didn't matter. This was the ultimate speedrunning solution for dealing with obstacles, and to this day, those runs are still proudly sitting on speedrun.com. And after a bit more time, all hell broke loose with JATO, modifications, non-stop testing, broken records and crushed spirits. Some speedrunners loved it, others hated it. But one thing became clear: the MD series, even with JATO, just wasn't it. It was simply too heavy, too big, and while the tuning options were great, they weren't exactly ideal for smooth, jet-powered driving. At that point, it looked like the MD series would go down as just another gimmick vehicle, useful for a few records and not much else. The speedrunning community had moved on. But they missed something, buried in the patch notes, hidden under all the excitement. The D-series had gotten JATO too. It wasn't until some viewers and even an alleged BeamNG developer commented under my video that the speedrunning community finally woke up. The D-series was everything the MD series wanted to be: lighter, smaller, and as one of the first vehicles ever added to BeamNG, its tuning depth was on another level. But JATO on D-series had one major downside: fuel. You see, the D-series had only 12 seconds of JATO fuel. Meanwhile, every other JATO-capable vehicle got 20 seconds. The MD series already struggled with its limited jet time, and now this new contender had almost half as much. But apparently that wasn't a problem, it was a perfect challenge for speedrunners. Among them, Eric and Wolf. They were instantly fascinated by the possibilities the D-series opened up, and the reason for that can be summed up in one word: acceleration. This is the one thing in JATO setups that no other vehicle in BeamNG can match. Not even the Scintilla can compete with the instant acceleration the D-series delivers, especially after tight 180-degree corners or during full-on backslides, BeamNG style. At first, both speedrunners went on a rampage, stealing nearly every record previously held by the MD series. All the short, sweet and weird tracks, like Crest Road and Half Pipes, were claimed almost instantly. Only after that, the real hunt began. With the D-series running without an engine, every "that's probably impossible" was taken seriously and tested. Each "nah, you can't do that" was eventually proven wrong, and every casual "you know, I think this map could work" was met with genuine excitement. During that golden period, countless maps were completely obliterated. New setups were tested constantly, some thrown into the trash right away, while others turned out to be surprisingly optimal. Backslides and huge jumps became a core part of the meta, and every hill started to look like a potential skip. Hundreds of hours were poured into experiments and runs, and in the process, speedrunners uncovered a wave of unique and iconic skips. There were jumps that shouldn't have been possible, and skips that looked like RNG but were actually pure skill. But like with all good things, it didn't last forever. Eventually everything slowed down, it was bound to happen. Every map had been tested, every record taken. Let's go! And every tune optimized to perfection. By that point, all that remained was the endless grind. Want the big 8 world record, land the jump, hit near perfect lines, and you'll have a shot. Sure, many maps were still considered impossible, either too long or blocked by having too many checkpoints, but among them, a few were theoretically possible. That said, after hundreds of attempts, even those were actually abandoned and marked as unbeatable. BeamNG speedrunning split in two. On one side, the impossible JATO runs, on the other, the stable grind routine, and right in the middle, a new runner, someone ready to throw it all away and start from scratch. Skrratt had been part of the BeamNG community for over 4 years, and he was one of the few true crawl enthusiasts. Highly experienced and well versed in one of the toughest most unforgiving types of speedruns. But interestingly, the rise of the JATO meta sparked something unexpected in him. A desire to break what everyone believed to be unbreakable. Rally time trials. The problem with the rally in BeamNG is simple. Too many checkpoints and way too long. These are the ultimate anti-JATO maps. Anything over 2 minutes is basically impossible. Skrratt's first target was River Rally, one of the oldest and most contested battlegrounds from the early days. Funnily enough, in 2021 this record was taken from him by Haiku and Kimurasa, and 4 years later he was ready to take revenge. It also happened to be one of the few maps still considered theoretically possible with JATO. He started grinding and, as expected, quickly hit a brick wall. Tunes from Airrack and Full just weren't cutting it, and the main problem was fuel. And to solve that problem, he'd need something completely different, a unique solution. The engine was the answer. On paper, putting an engine on a JATO vehicle sounds like a terrible idea. First of all, it's a truck engine. It's heavy, slow to accelerate, and even though it's durable, any serious hit is probably game over anyway. But the biggest downside of having it around is skips. With an engine, you also get an additional 300 kilos of weight, which means you can't go as far or as precisely as you would with a pure JATO build. And in most runs built around jet, skips are everything. But as mentioned earlier, rally maps are different. They are loaded with checkpoints, have flatter terrain, and skips simply aren't an option. Well, not to the extent of some other maps anyway, which means maybe, just maybe, an engine could work here. And that's not all. Having an engine gives the vehicle the ability to accelerate and preserve speed without JATO. I know, madness, but for long stretches this makes a huge difference. You only need JATO to gain speed now, not to keep it. And then there is cornering. With only JATO, dirt runs become a gamble. You are constantly choosing. Do I use grip or burn jet fuel? But with an engine, the answer is simple. Use throttle for the corner, and if it feels a little slow, toss in a quick boost of JATO to clean it up. This is exactly how River Rally was destroyed, by a whole 3 seconds. Granted, it took many hours of constant attempts from Skrratt, but this rally stage has a few quirks of its own. And no, it's not the classic steel bushes that obliterate your car on contact, it's water. There are 3 river crossings on this map, and each one is a major headache. You are guaranteed to lose speed, and if you are too slow, there is a high chance of water getting into the engine, especially with speedrunning setups. So crossing them cleanly and, most importantly, quickly is a must. That's where JATO shines. Just look at this first water crossing compared to a regular FCV Vivas. The only realistic competition to JATO would be the Scintilla, but with its low frame and the sheer amount of small rocks scattered around, it's just not viable. The map itself is filled with hard 90 and 180 degree corners, with long straights in between, a perfect setting for a vehicle with JATO, but simply too long to attempt without an engine. Interestingly, the runner wasn't even fully optimized with their jet fuel. They finished with 15% still in reserve, just in case. And that's how this difficult rally map got absolutely crushed. But there was another one, Deforest Stage. Notoriously difficult, with Haiku and Kimurasa setting a record that looked nearly unbeatable. It took Skrratt even longer to perfect a run here, but it was absolutely worth it. Unlike River Rally, which was relatively flat with some water crossing, Deforest Stage is the complete opposite. Constant hills, endless elevation changes, and turns that are locked tightly into the terrain. Clean driving is extremely tough. Even the very first turn is a test of precision, with steel trees waiting to strike you down using the invisible hitboxes. And to make it even harder, there was the previous record. Haiku put together a phenomenal run that honestly looked unbelievable, with his scintilla glued to the track like it was magnetized. But the scintilla has one flaw: it can't instantly rocket to high speeds, and that's exactly where Skrratt found his opening, the final straight. Hilariously, at the checkpoint right before the finish line, JATO was actually 1 full second behind, but Skrratt had saved nearly 6 seconds worth of jet fuel and used it all at once. His speed exploded, and he practically flew. On that straight alone, he saved almost 3 seconds, and in the end, took the record with a margin of 1.5 seconds. What future holds for this vehicle? Nobody knows. Maybe with a new rework to tire physics it will be completely unusable. But for now, the D-series remains as one of the most unrealistic, broken, and most importantly, fun vehicles in BeamNG speedrunning. Not bad for one of the first vehicle in BeamNG Drive. Thank you for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.